Linguists in your area. Linguists in your
Today we're going to look at the analysis of findings from the data we collected via the interview sessions to where 4 Malaysian university students with different cultural backgrounds have been selected to answer questions on 3 scopes. So I'll be summarizing on the first scope, which focuses on what is the Malaysians' attitudes towards English. So the questions are this, where we ask whether English is their mother tongue, whether they speak English more often and fluently, and that does the university use English as the medium, and that do they think English is an important language in this era? And lastly, what do they think about Malaysians using English with other local people? So for the first interview, Malay interviewee, he accepts that English is being widely used in Malaysia. Furthermore, he also believes that English is important for students, especially when communicating with peers for discussions and whatnot. Surprisingly, he also thinks speaking English may make people think that you are a city boy, which is a negative perception. For the Indian interviewee, despite having Tamil as her mother tongue, she actually speaks mainly in English and Malay with her lecturers and discussion peers. That being said, if she speaks English with someone who is not good with English, she might appear cocky. She also thinks that English is important just like the Malay interviewee, but for her, it is for her future opportunities, just for example, future jobs. And then we have the Chinese interviewee. She thinks that English can act as an identity marker. As Malaysians mostly speak Manglish instead of English, the standard English, speaking Manglish can strongly associate oneself with being a Malaysian. So she likes that idea of identity marker. That being said, she also prefers not to speak English with someone who is not good with English. Also, she sees English proficiency as important because most companies require job applicants to be proficient in English, just like the Indian interviewee. And then Sarawakian interviewee, who actually considers English as his mother tongue because he lived in the UK before. So yeah, however, BM Malay is his first language because he would speak BM or Sarawakian with his classmates and teachers when he returned to Malaysia. He also thinks that using English should depend on the other person's English proficiency and that it is important to be proficient in English because mostly everything is in English. So in summary, these interviewees show a really positive attitude. Some of them are English is deemed as a universal language, English functions as an identity marker, and that English is rather a situational medium to be used instead, and that English is the mother tongue for one of them. So thank you.
All right, moving on to scope 2, Malaysians' views on the language policy. So we asked 3 questions for this scope. Do pause at your own time to read the questions because we will go straight to the analysis. Okay, for question 1, the ratio of your awareness towards Malaysia's language policy is 2:2. Perhaps this is because most people just know the policies on the surface level. Now for the second question, all of them talk about how they agree that Bahasa Malaysia should be our national and official language. Only the Chinese interviewee touched on how she agrees that English is rightfully given the status as the second language, but the others did not touch on English's status at all and jumped straight to how they do not feel that English is affecting the local and minority languages. This can be translated as how they perhaps feel that English's status as the second language should not be questioned, and they are aware that English is being debated as a contributor to the local and minority language issues because the question was general. It was on their thoughts about English being the second language, not at all about how they feel about English threatening the usage of the local and minority languages. As for the third question, the Indian and Sarawakian interviewees think that abruptly changing the medium of instruction is problematic, and this is mainly in relation to the field of study. For instance, English is deemed as a global relation lingua franca and as the language of science. So it is pointless to learn these subjects in other languages instead. And the Chinese interviewee, she has a different point of view whereby she thinks that for someone who is more familiar with Bahasa Malaysia, she would not be too opposed to the change. Well, if the change is to Bahasa Malaysia, of course, but would feel troubled if the change is to English instead. However, the Malay interviewee said that it's not a matter of how we feel about it, it's a matter of having to force ourselves to adapt to it since it's a policy.
Lastly, let's look at scope 3, which is how Malaysia's language policy has impacted the local, including minority languages. Here are the 5 questions. You can pause the screen. Let's look at question 1 and question 2. Now, all of the interviewees do not see English as the culprit for the decreasing usage of local and minority languages. And there's a 3:1 ratio for the cause. The Malay, Indian, and Chinese interviewees share the idea that the problem lays within the speakers themselves. But the Sarawakian interviewee has a different idea, whereby they believe that it might be due to the globalization of English instead. The Malay and Indian interviewee talked about the attitude of the speakers, and the Chinese interviewee talked about the speakers' environments, whereby people don't mingle and mix with people of different ethnicity, therefore there's no exchange of the languages. Question 3. Now, all of them agree that it is good that priority is given to the English language, and they share the idea that being proficient in English is very important and everyone should master it. But the Malay interviewee did note that this is actually slightly biased towards the English language. Question 4. On the idea of a new policy, there's a 3-to-1 versus. The Malay, Chinese, and Indian agree because they say that a new policy should be made that highlights the local and minority languages and gives it a greater importance. The Chinese interviewee even proposes that they are given the third language status. Only the Sarawakian interviewee disagreed because he believes that the languages won't disappear because it is actually older than the English language and therefore will be preserved. Lastly, for the comments, the Malay and Indian interviewee echo each other by saying that importance need to be given to the local and minority languages. And it is absurd that speakers abandon it just because it is not the main medium used when they are connecting with other people. The Indian interviewee stressed that the blame cannot be solely put on English because parents are actually responsible to teach their kids their native language. The Chinese interviewee highlighted the role of politicians and suggested we follow the steps of Singapore, whereby the politicians there promoted the use of minority languages, and the same should be applied to the government itself. That is all from us. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed our discussion. See you guys later. Bye!
Linguists in your area. Linguists in your area.